Well, we have a pretty full room, so why don't we just go ahead and get started? We'll go ahead and admit other folks as they come in, but we'll just kick it off. So hello, everyone. Once again, my name is Ashley Hunt. I'm a new member of NAWBO. I just joined during the pandemic, as I said, and I've been helping with programming the last few months here in 2021. And so I'm really excited to kick off today with Lynn Schrader. She's the president of KHI Solutions in Fort Dodge. I'm sure many of you on this call know her. She's owned KHI since 2009. After a 20-year career in marketing sales, KHI is one of Iowa's major wholesalers for insurance, and it also sells insurance directly. Lynn was a 2016 recipient of the Iowa Small Business Administration Women in Business Champion of the Year, and she's been a member of NAWBO since 2009. So let's all welcome Lynn, and she's going to give us a rundown on the health landscape.
All right, and I'm going to share my screen here as soon as Ashley lets me. All right, so I trust everybody can see that okay. Yes? All right.
Yes.
Well, good. Well, thanks for having me, you guys. Today, we are recording this presentation, I believe. Correct, Ashley? Okay, very good. And so I know that there might be some folks that periodically I might need to pause and let them into the meeting. I think if Ashley can't do it, I'll have to do that. But so far so good. I'm not seeing anything yet. So I love the tagline, "What the Health." And you know what? I thought I made that up, and I thought I was so clever. And then I find it on the Kaiser Family Foundation website. It's like one of their podcasts called "What the Health." So I'm like, all right. I don't know if they did it first or I did it first, but we like it's catchy. And what I thought I'd do today is just kind of talk you through the markets that we serve, right, from a health insurance perspective, and then talk about the costs of those and maybe some of the good points and the bad points about it, differences between them. So it always, to me, makes sense that we start kind of with a level set on what markets do we serve. Because I think this way, but I think the normal person like y'all owning a business, you may not know which market you fit into. And believe it or not, I think in my lifetime, I will be in at least the top 3 markets. So let's start with the individual and family market. So that one, we know a lot around the ACA. So when you hear ACA market, individual plans, and we'll talk through what each of these mean really quick, but employer group market, the Medicare market, the Medicaid or CHIP market, that the CHIP is the Children's Health Insurance Program. There's a military and federal employee market, and then there's the uninsured market. And of course, the whole point of the ACA back when it was signed into law on March 23rd of 2010 and went into effect on January 1 of 2014, it was intended really to get everybody insured. So let's look at what our rates look like in Iowa. And I just find this slide fascinating because it shows us where we've been. So remember, I just said ACA was signed in 2010, but it was implemented in 2014. So what you'll see here is what the numbers in Iowa looked like prior to us implementing the ACA, or the Affordable Care Act, when I use that acronym, right? So I like seeing the percentages and the actual number of Iowans enrolled in different markets. So when you look at the group market, for example, which some of you are on an employer group plan. And the other thing is some of you are spouses of people on an employer group plan. You might own your own business, but you're tagging on to your spouse's health plan, so you don't have to worry about it for your business, which is great. Some of you don't have a spouse to jump onto, so you have to create your own. So some of you are in the individual market, some are in the employer group market, right? And some of you that hit 60, the magic number 65, and we'll get to that in a little while, get into the Medicare market. And that's a woohoo when you get into Medicare, because plans get better and rates get better even yet. So, but look at the 53, almost 54% of Iowans are in the group market compared to just a tick up from that now in 2019. And these are the most current numbers on the Kaiser Family Foundation website. So, this is what it says, you guys. Over half of Iowans are on employer group plans. That's what that statistic is to tell you that, right? So it's a big market. And the individual market is very small. Look at the individual market, 6.4%. And then it's funny because I think the intention was that by having the ACA, we would have more people covered, thus more people in the individual market. Well, the number's actually gone down from 2013. Now, some of that's due to our aging population. So look at Medicare. Medicare went from 13.8, almost 14% of our market to over 15% of our market. Because, yeah, let's hear it for the boomers. I'm a boomer, and the boomers, baby, we're aging into Medicare oh so gracefully. And so there's an uptick there in the Medicare population. And then we look at Medicaid. Now, that's the government helping out, paying for health insurance for those who really struggle to afford it. And I am going to share some statistics with you because you may not be in this category, but you may know of people that are. And I'm going to touch on the federal poverty limit and how people get into that market, and then when they get out of that market. So, but notice, you guys, that has gone up, and that was the goal, I know, in Iowa, because we expanded Medicaid in Iowa to be 138% of the federal poverty level. And a lot of other states didn't expand it. And this was really to help out folks that are really, they were on that bubble at 100% of federal poverty. It's like, no, but we expanded that so they can get government health care free of charge, might be a little bit of copay if they do some things like get a health risk assessment and they do some certain things, but it's really trying to get those folks from not showing up at the emergency room and getting care. It's actually getting a primary care doctor and going to a physician and trying to keep healthy. So the Medicaid population has actually gone up, but that's expected because the military number I throw in there because some of you know folks who are in the military, or I also call it the federal program. So if they're federal employees, the Postal Service, National Guard, if they're federal National Guard, I think we've got some local Iowa National Guard, but military is in a bucket. And that's gone up a little bit as well, as you can tell. And then our uninsured rate, here's the great news, the uninsureds in Iowa have gone down. And so whether they actually got employed, and so they're part of the group market, or they're on Medicaid, either way, it's good news, right? The reason that I color-coded, you guys, the green and the red down here, is I wanted to show you the difference between where the number went from 2018 to 2019. So you'll just notice here that the employer group number went up from 2018 to 19, more people in employer group plans. The individual market actually went down in 2019. So it was a little bit higher in 2018. Again, then Medicare market up, Medicaid up, military up, and then the uninsured rate actually went down again from 2018 to 19. So that was what I was showing you without having to put 2018 numbers in. And then I don't know about you guys, but I like to know, you know what, darn it, Iowa matters. We are 3 million plus strong. So when you add up all those numbers, our population, we've grown slightly, just about 70,000 increase from 2013 to 2019. So I really think Iowa is obviously a great place to live and grow, have my business and whatnot. So I thought that was a good place to kind of level set. So hopefully you guys agree. Feel free to type in any comments or chats, and hopefully Ashley can catch those. I'm not seeing anybody else in the waiting room, Ashley. So, okay, so here's the markets. Individual and family, as I talked about. This is typically for independent contractors, could be small business owner, a group of one, right, that doesn't generate a W-2 inside their business. This is in the individual and family market. And they're working for an employer that doesn't offer insurance. Maybe they're working a couple part-time jobs. This can be, and I know several people that this is the market they live and breathe in, and this is what they do. They're in the individual market, and that's where they stay. A lot of people, as you guys saw, it's 6 to 7% of our market in Iowa, so it's not a big market, but it's an important market. And sometimes people end up here temporarily, and before they get to Medicare or before they get back onto another employer group plan. So it's kind of it can be a transitory market, but for many independent contractors or sole proprietors, this is their home. This is where they live. In our employer group space, I call them micro groups, those groups of 1 and 2, although they are considered small groups. But you can have a group of 1. There's some caveats there for anybody that does CPA work on the side or knows how you're structured. You have to have a W-2. You have to have at least one W-2 employee to be able to get a small group plan. And it's worth looking at sometimes. And I help a lot of small businesses look at that. And some of you that do health insurance, I know, are on the call. You guys help people with this, and we evaluate the options. Is it better to go individual or better to go employer group? The cool thing about employer group is because if you want to add an employee, you've got benefits you can talk to them about and offer those to your employee, right? So you've got the micro market, the small group market that generally goes from, I call it 3 to 50. It's really 1 to 50 is the small group market, but the mid market then from 51 to 100, and large group 101 plus. And there's different rules around each of these markets in terms of what plans they can offer. Is there any underwriting or not? Is it guaranteed issue? What plans are offered? So so that's the employer group space, and then the Medicare space. And a lot of people get this mixed up with when you can draw Social Security. And so you can draw Social Security at what age? Like 62, right? Because I know, people have been eyeballing that, even if it's a discounted amount. It might not be the full amount, but not to be confused with Medicare, and it's still 65 to qualify for Medicare. Not to be confused with Medicaid, and a lot of people say that. So remember, Medicaid is government health care. Medicare is when you turn 65 or older, or you're on disability for at least 24 months, then you'll get Medicare, or you're eligible then, or other special conditions. And I know 2 of them in particular is ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, as well as end-stage renal disease. And those 2, when you get a diagnosis for that, you will very quickly become eligible for Medicare, which is a good thing because generally it's really hard to work with those conditions. And so you would have to come off an employer group plan, and then you'd get to jump on Medicare. Okay, so I want to do a dive down, and this is where we're going to go into each market and then talk about the rates in each market. So like I said, this is what us as health professionals, health insurance professionals do. This is what we do with our clients, prospects, trying to help them figure out what is the best thing to do. And so in the individual market, first of all, I want to say that there are ACA options or Affordable Care Act options, but not every plan is an Affordable Care Act plan. So these plans are unique in that they're guaranteed issue, and there's a lot of other things that you get with an ACA plan, but the highlight is it's guaranteed issue, and subsidies are available to help you pay your premium based on your income, okay? So the 3 options that we have for carriers, insurance companies, are Medica out of Minnesota, Wellmark out of right here in Des Moines, and Oscar is a brand new insurance company in Iowa. They've been in other states. I believe they're headquartered in New York. And so that's the choice that you have there. And so we look at all 3 options. Each of them would have their own plans, their own rating structure, their own service, it's their own value prop. We've also got some non-ACA options here in Iowa. Some legislation passed a few years back to allow an agricultural company, Farm Bureau, to be able to offer a health insurance plan that was not ACA compliant, okay? And so Farm Bureau basically hired Wellmark to be their TPA, their third-party administrator, and say, hey, you do all the billing and all the claims processing and give us a provider network, and we will be the ones that market it. So it's an underwritten health plan. So that means you have to care for your health or the health of your spouse because you could be declined coverage. And remember, I just said with the ACA in the individual market on an ACA plan, it's guaranteed issue. Do not worry. I've had cancer. I've had this. I've had that. Doesn't matter on the ACA plans. They're guaranteed issue. Farm Bureau, they get to decline you if they think you're not healthy enough for their pool of business, okay? And you have to be a Farm Bureau member to get that. Now, the cool thing is they let people like me who is not a Farm Bureau person, they let us sell it. So we've got access to it, and that was one of the conditions Wellmark agreed to be their TPA if they opened it up and allowed independent agents to also market this plan to their clients. Another non-ACA option is a short-term limited duration plan. Sometimes these are known as crappy plans. I'll just say it, right? And we want to, I remember I got to be on a team that met with Commissioner Ullman here in Iowa, and we said, we don't want our short-term limited duration plan to be a crappy plan. So how can we make it meet the guidelines of what it's intended to be, which is lower price option for people that don't worry about covering pre-existing conditions, right? So you have to medical underwrite, it's not guaranteed issue. There's a minimum of $500,000 of coverage must be offered by the carrier. So there's some coverage there. They can be for 12 months or extended up to 36 months. And then the cool thing is, and we made sure this was written in, that once you underwrite and get it, you can renew it for year 2 or year 3, and they cannot deny anything that happened to you in that first year, right? And these plans are really popular for people in between employer group plans, or the folks that are just shy of getting to Medicare, and they really don't want to buy an ACA plan, maybe because of the rates. They're healthy, and they're willing to say, let me just get a short-term plan for a year or 2, and I realize they won't cover any of my pre-existing conditions, and I realize there's some limitations, but I want to save some money, and I'm willing to take that chance. They're kind of controversial, and I'll leave it at that. I want to remind you, open enrollment is for the individual ACA plans that runs every year from November 1st to December 15th. So if you have a plan, you can change it because the plans can change every year. The rates, of course, change every year. And if you don't buy a plan, you can just get one that period of time if you've never had one and you want to get insurance. By the way, and I didn't put this in a later slide, but the Biden administration, shortly after him taking the Biden administration and taking office, they opened up a special enrollment period that's running from February 15th until May 15th. And those would give you effective dates of March 1 through June 1. So if you applied today, you would get the first of the month following. So anybody that doesn't have insurance right now can get insurance in a special period without any documentation, no special event needed. Although they're calling it a special enrollment, it's really like another open enrollment right now. And so I just encourage people to just get some insurance and then wait till I tell you what's happening with the American Relief Plan, because that's just going to bump up the subsidies. And for those of you that are on a call getting subsidies, like the subsidies are even getting better. So if you're paying anything, you might be able to pay nothing for your health plan. Okay, so let's go to I wanted to touch on these ACA plans, just drill down just on these for a second, because these are what's proactively sold right now: bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. When they came out with ACA, they started using these metallic tiers to help people understand, consumers understand, a good plan from a better plan from a great plan, or a not so good plan to a really good plan. So follow the metal levels, and you can tell your lowest premium plans will be bronze, your highest premium plans will be platinum. I will tell you, pretty sure in the Iowa marketplace this year, there are no platinum plans. I'll tell you why, guys, because they're really great coverage, but they're so out of this world price that nobody's going to pay for it. So they have some gold plans that you can access. But anyway, you'll hear this terminology also in the small group market because they use the metallic tiers as well. Again, like I said, independent contractors, employer that doesn't offer insurance, or part-time folks. And then I just want to touch on the federal poverty level income levels, I should say, the federal poverty level income levels. And so 100% of federal poverty is $12,760 a year. So if you know of anyone, the single person that's making that or less, they would qualify then for Medicaid. But I want to tell you, because we expanded, notice the little diagram down below, that we have 138% of federal poverty actually qualifies you since we expanded Medicaid in Iowa. So really the number is 17,608. I have to tell you guys, I've had conversations with people that said, we've got to get that number above. And I usually use 18,000 as the magic number. Get your income above 18,000 if you don't want to go on government health care, because it's just, I can't help you, and you have to call, DHS to get it, which is fine. And then there's just rules they have, and there's just more hoops to jump through. And I say, if you can make 18,000 or more a year, then you can get ACA coverage. And that might be a better long-term solution, because you hope your income will grow from there. Either my business will grow if I'm starting a business, or whatnot, right? I'm going to get another client or take on more business. And then just notice that the old subsidies, you guys, I'm telling you right now, because I'm going to give you an update, $51,040 roughly there. You can see that was 400%. Let me get my cursor right here. 51,040 is 400% of federal poverty for a single person. So notice if you have a household of 2, 3, 4, the numbers go up, of course. But I'm just talking about a family size of 1 right now. And if I would tell somebody, you have to make sure you keep your income below 51,000, or you'll lose your entire subsidy you're getting. Well, guess what? Okay, I have to go to this next chart, because this is the good news from the American Rescue Plan. Increased subsidies and improved plans beginning April 1st. So I know at least one of you on this call today that I've helped with this, and we're going to want to get back together on or right after April 1st to verify, because you're going to notice that your income can now exceed 400% of federal poverty and you can still get help. It won't be as much, but you can still get help. So we'll want to relook at your your policy. This will go retroactive to January 1st. Like, you don't have to do anything. We'll do it starting in April. If we did it in May, whatever, but it's going to last for 2 years, you guys. These subsidies and all this extra help are going to last for 2 years. So this is all part of this American Rescue Plan. It's somewhat tied to COVID, but at the same time, it's like, if you're not impacted by COVID, it doesn't matter, because this is for you based on your income. So I used to call it the cliff. Like, you hit 400% of federal poverty, and if you go $1 over, you lost it all. That we called the cliff. The cliff is going away. And so now they're going to tie it to your income times 8.5%, saying this: you're not going to be required to pay any more than 8.5% of your annual income to health insurance premiums. So you can do the math on that, but I'll tell you, I've done the math. Let me flip to this next slide. Let me show you this, and I'll show you some examples. So now they're saying, here's the deal. Now they're saying that anybody, look at that, 400% and over, way down here at the bottom line. This is what they're saying. Your initial premium will only be 8.5% of your income, okay? And so notice these, though, how they've changed, and the calculator or the formula they use now. If you're at 200% of federal poverty, you guys, you're going to pay zero for your plan, like nothing. It'll be free of charge, zero premium. Okay. And then it says here, look, if I go to 200 to 250, I'll pay 2% of my income, or 250 to 300, 4% of my income. So they've just restructured the formula. And I have to tell you guys, it's easier to calculate and to think about and to communicate to prospects that I work with. And we got rid of the cliff, so that you don't have to worry. Hey, Lynn, I had a great year. Well, good, because your premium will go up commensurate with your income then, but there won't be a cliff anymore. So anyway, as you can tell, I'm a fan of this because we needed to fix this. This was broken, how it was structured before. So here's some samples. Okay, so I tried to just do a few of these, but everybody's case is so different. But I pulled a quote, and you guys were using a silver health insurance plan. So it's not the worst plan, the bronze. It's not the best plan, the gold, but it's going to be kind of a middle plan, right? So for a 28-year-old single person making $25,000 a year, they can expect to pay $38 a month for health insurance. And of that, I just wanted to stick in there, what's the subsidy I'm getting? $378 a month. And you guys, by the way, they don't pay this and have to get reimbursed. No, the federal government pays the insurance company that you select. A 35-year-old single person now making 40. So see what the difference is. It's how old am I? And of course, what's my income? So it varies based on my age and my income. And look at that. So if I'm making 40 grand a year as a 35-year-old single person, household of one, I can expect to pay $211 a month, getting a $256 a month subsidy from the government, okay? So just trying to give you a little flavor here. Now, let's go this. Let's say we've got two people. I just said 35-year-olds, and a lot of this, you guys, I was using because Amy knows, and I know Amy's on the call. I just wrote a little article to try to help entrepreneurs and people that want to start a business, and they told me that the average age of somebody starting a business tends to be right around that kind of that mid-30s, right? Maybe mid to late 30s. So I just used two 35-year-olds, like, right, I'm in corporate America today, and I want to launch my new company, but I've got a spouse, and there's two of us, and what are we going to do for health insurance? So if one of you has a job and maybe doesn't get benefits, but the other one wants to start the business, okay, two 35-year-olds making 40 grand total in their household, they can expect to pay $109 a month for insurance, covering both people, okay? And then they'd take advantage of an $826 a month premium tax subsidy. These are all new numbers, you guys, using the American Rescue Plan. So now check out the next one, because this one, you guys, for real, a 40-year-old with a 40-year-old spouse and two kids, and I just made up 10 and 12-year-old kids, making 140 grand a year, right? You can expect to pay $992 a month for the whole family. Now, what do you compare that with? You compare that with, well, wait a minute, my spouse gets benefits at their work. Get this, you guys, if you're offered benefits through an employer, you can't get a subsidy. You do not qualify for a subsidy if you're offered employer group coverage. you don't qualify for a subsidy. So there's an issue there. And obviously we work through those things and we sit down and look at all the options, right? So this is really for folks that don't have an employer group option to be able to get the subsidy. Now, there's something else I want to touch on. I don't have a slide on it, but it's where an employer could intentionally disband their group, tell you all to go get individual coverage and go get the subsidy. Okay, that's one way to do it. And another way to do it is the group says, I'm disbanding the group. Go get your own individual coverage, but don't get a subsidy. I'm going to reimburse you X amount of dollars a month to help you cover because you're my employee and I want to keep you happy. So these are things, you guys, this is an ever-changing landscape for us in the health insurance business to keep up with the legislation and what's happening so that we can share with you what are your best options. Because your best option a year ago might have just changed. Most likely it did, based on the things I just mentioned, okay? So let's go into, I'm keeping a track of our time here. Let's go into our employer group. I talked about the micro groups, 1 to 2, small groups, 3 to 50, the mid-market, large group, but I want to dive into the 1 to 50 space. Even though I called them micro groups 1 and 2, they're all part of the small group market, and they also have ACA protections. There are ACA groups. Who are the players playing in this space right now in Iowa? Well, it's Wellmark, it's United Healthcare, and it's Aetna. Aetna, I look at not a serious player because they have one plan option. It's not a great plan option, but they wanted to stay in the market to some degree. We don't market it at all that I'm aware of, but I haven't seen one written in years. But Wellmark and UHC tend to be the ones. What does this mean again? Guaranteed issue, guys. It means guaranteed issue, no medical underwriting. So why is that good? In the past, small group had grandmothered and grandfathered plans. What does that mean? They were plans that existed prior to the ACA being signed and going live, okay? Those groups in the past went through medical underwriting, okay? And so they have rates based on their own claims of their own group. And for some of them that are healthy, it's maybe working out great. They're still getting some rate increases year over year. Because those older groups, grandmother, grandfather, their rates were based on not only their claims, but on their demographic. So if they had a lot of young people and they were healthy, and a lot of males especially, because what happens to us women? Okay, I want to have a baby. Okay, I'm going to have all kinds of expenses. I mean, it's crazy, but the rates for certain demographics were really good in the old school of doing it. Well, in the new way of doing it, it's all age rated, and it's guaranteed issue. And so everybody, depending on your age, has a rate. I'll get to that in a second because I've got some rates I'm going to show you in the ACA space. But we also have some non-ACA options in the small group market. What does that mean? It means if I have a small group and I'm sick and tired of these rate increases I keep getting, and I think I probably have a pretty healthy group, and maybe I'm even young, I've got a bunch of young people that work for me. I'll tell you, a lot of tech companies have a lot of young people working for them. They tend to be healthier. These non-ACA choices I call them alternative funding options, like a level funded or a self-funded plan. So what does that mean? It means the employer group can or doesn't have to take on some risk. If it's a level funded, they really don't take on any risk, but they have to go through medical underwriting and get a rate assigned to them based on the expected claims experience of their group and their demographics, just like in the olden days, okay, before ACA. So the players that we see in our market that I see a lot of, UHC, United Healthcare, that is, National General, TriMark, Aetna. So, and there's more, but these are the ones that I tend to see that KHI actually does business with. These, as I mentioned, these plans are underwritten. The rates are based on the group of the health, the demographic, meaning age and gender. The employer pays a monthly fee, and then they pay out claims based on the monthly fees that they're paying. And they might get some savings at the end of the year, which is kind of cool. If I keep my group really healthy and I paid X amount in premium, but I only spent X amount in claims, if it's a positive number for me at the end, that's savings for me. I can apply it to my next group, my next year's premiums, whatever. There could be potential provider network savings. I won't go into this. This is another whole presentation about reference-based pricing and using a unique kind of a network arrangement. Telehealth, we all know what that is now. Boy, I kept trying to help people. Hey, you got to use telehealth. COVID took care of that, baby. Everybody knows what telehealth is now, right? And everybody will use it because they don't want to get the cooties when they go to the doctor. And many of them weren't seeing clients face to face. So that can capture savings for a group. And then this carve out for a direct primary care option. And again, that's another presentation, but some cool, innovative things are happening in the small group market. And so I get frustrated when I hear of employer groups will say, oh, my agent just told me, just sit back and just hang in there, just suck it up. You're just going to get a rate increase every year. I want to tear my hair out because there are other options for small employers and you don't need to sit back and take it year over year. So anyway, and with all the things I just mentioned in the individual market, you have options. All right. So check it out. And I just went ahead and did a quote here, you guys, on a silver plan. And I will just tell you, I was using Wellmark rates, you guys, because they're the ones, they're in the individual market and they're in the small group market. And I wanted to do like for like with the same carrier. So here's the issue, you guys. If you remember what I was telling you, I used some of the same ages that I was using in the individual premiums. What were you hearing? Oh, $38 a month, $109 a month, right? $1,000 a month for a family of 4. Okay, do you remember these numbers? I just happen to kind of have them in my head. So here's the other difference. I want to show you why I put out HMO and PPO, because in the employer group market, except for Medica that has a little bit of wiggle room to go outside of Iowa, if you're in the individual market, you're limited to an HMO, which means Iowa-based network only. You want to go to Mayo Clinic? Probably not going to happen in the individual market. In the employer group market with a PPO plan, you can go anywhere in the country. And I'll tell you, a lot of people will not want to disband their employer group because they don't want to be without that access to a PPO network to have any provider in the country that's contracted with that carrier, okay? But PPO is nationwide coverage. You always have to check and make sure your doc's covered or that doc is covered. And you pay more for it, as you can see in the rates there. But if I'm an employer group and I'm offering a plan and I have a whole bunch of 64-year-olds or 65 or 66-year-olds on my plan, I'm just saying, right? You might want to take a look at, seriously. I mean, and this is the scary part because all of us agents that play in the group space, we're like, what? Our group could disband and go to the individual market? Well, they might for 2 years while these subsidies are going on. It's crazy, right? So, but you guys can see the rates there. I just wanted you to get a feel for this because this is kind of meant to be, look, if you haven't looked at what you're doing, get a hold of your agent. If you don't have one, I know Marcy's on the call. Of course, we're here. Go to a NABO member. Let me say that. Karen, I think, was signed up for the call. I didn't see her on right away, but maybe she joined after we started. So get with a NABO sister, y'all, right? Get with somebody and talk through what your options are. Let's hit Medicare, and then we'll make sure we have plenty of time for questions. But in the Medicare space, as I said earlier, 65 years old, on disability for at least 24 months or some other conditions, and then you get this beautiful Medicare card. And we do say yay, right? When you get to Medicare, some people might go, oh, I don't like getting older. I'm like, oh, no, trust me, you want to get older on this one because this is good stuff. Okay, so I want to, just a couple things like, right, effective the first day of the month you turn 65. So look, my birthday is January 16th. When I age into Medicare, I will have a January 1 effective date for my Medicare, okay? So that's cool. Now, if my birthday happens to be the first of the month, like if it were January 1 was my birthday, I actually get to do it December 1st. They give me another whole month. So they back me up a month. So that's kind of cool. But otherwise, just know it's the first of the month that you turn 65, then you can get Medicare. We call original Medicare Parts A and B, and we just do, I have a whole presentation when anybody's interested, and I just did it yesterday for a bunch, or Friday, I guess, on Medicare and all the particulars about Medicare. That's its own 45-minute presentation. But I will just tell you this, you really have 2 choices when you're on Medicare. Well, 3, you can do nothing. You can just get original Medicare A and B. You can get a Medicare supplement plan, and the government has those standardized plans. I'll say F and G are the most popular plan, okay? And then you usually get a standalone prescription drug plan. That's how that works. The second option or path you can take, you have your Medicare Part A and B. You still have to have A and B, But you could look at then a Medicare Advantage plan that combines the health and the drug into one plan. And you're actually now working with a private insurance company for that. Our most popular ones are going to be UHC, Aetna, Humana. Health Partners has a new one. Medigold, which is a partnership with Mercy, has one. Health Partners is partnered with Unity Point. So we've got, you guys, 5 solid Medicare Advantage plan carriers right here in the Des Moines area and all over the different counties in Iowa. And they're popular plans, I'll tell you guys. They're guaranteed issue. And I'll show you the premiums here in a second. Like, it'll kind of knock your socks off, but you get what you pay for. So there's a reason why you would do one or the other. But I remind you all that there's a annual election period from October 15th to December 7th every year to allow people to change their plans. And this is the only time they can do it unless there's a qualifying event during the year. But you can see how this overlaps with the other annual election period. And then most of our employer groups renew January 1. So that's why in our world in health insurance, fourth quarter is a nightmare. But just know that, just it is what it is. I feel for all the CPAs out there that do tax returns, right? They have a window like we do. So, okay, so here's some premiums, right? So I like laying this out because if any of you are getting close to Medicare age, everybody always asks me, what should I have saved up for in Medicare age to cover my health insurance costs? So I always tell them Part A is free if you paid in for at least 40 quarters into the look on your payroll statement. If you paid your Medicare tax, you've been paying into the system. So as long as you've worked for 10 years or 40 quarters, you've contributed, you're going to get your A for free. B is a premium, Part B. The claims are just A and B is just how it was set up years ago, and there's different claims get processed through Medicare Part A than B. So you have to get, if you want to get a supplement or an advantage plan, you've got to have both A and B. Most people take both. There's a whole presentation, you guys, about taking Medicare A and then waiving your B because you're still working for your employer group. That's another whole, I talk about that in my other presentation, but just know it's $148.50, so you have to budget that in, and that can go up every year. That's a government premium, and that they can raise it. And then here's your supplement and RX plan. And again, I'm just using a sample. Here's a Plan G for a female, and then a prescription drug plan. So right there, you're figuring right there, just round it to $150 a month, right? So if you got roughly $150 for your Part B premium, $150 for your, just figure $300 a month is what I need to have saved up to cover my health insurance when I retire, right? When you're really done working, maybe. Or if you're still working, you want to waive your B, right? So you can waive the $148.50 and then you'd stay on your employer group plan. So you have to, that's what we help people do, right? Evaluate the cost difference. And then last but not least is the Medicare Advantage plan. And so, can you just like cough or choke on the zero, right? Like, how could that possibly be? The premium, thank you, Bobby. Like the health and drug plan premium is like zero premium. And so I get a lot of people ask me that, but I just want to back up this slide right here. And I want to show you right here on this bullet right here. A private insurance company, you guys, that they enroll with is paid every month for every member they enroll. How much are they getting? Guess what? I'm going to go back one more slide. I'll go to this slide. Sorry. They're going to get basically, right? The government is off. I call it outsourcing, right? So they're probably going to get the $148.50 or so. The Part A is over $400. So I always tell people, look, the way this can be zero is because the health insurance company is getting paid by the federal government to not only build the plan for you and do the billing, answer your claims questions, process the claims, but guess what? Carry the risk. So they're carrying the risk on every member that they take on. So if that member gets sick and gets cancer, has chemo, blah, 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 and it costs them $1 million, that's on the individual health insurance company. That's not on the government, okay? Because the government contracted that out. So I just explain it that way to people, and that usually makes sense. And they go, okay, I get it. The supplemental plans, you guys, you're going through original Medicare with this Plan G. All your claims are going to Medicare. And then what Medicare doesn't cover, right, in terms of how their plan is structured, they send it to the supplement company, and the supplement plan pays it, okay? So anyway, that's kind of the stuff there. So what do we need? And we're wrapping up here, and then type in any questions or comments that you want, and we'll open that up. It's not quite quarter till. But now this is Lynn's opinion, you guys. So this is what Lynn thinks we still need from my work in doing this, and I've been in the business now, gosh, it's about 20 years I've been in health insurance. And I think what we still need yet, because we've made some great strides, we really have, but we still need transparency And when I say transparency, it's transparency in what the providers are charging us, right? And what are their costs? Like use an MRI, for example. I wonder what the cost is, a true wholesale cost for an MRI, right? I will tell you, because I got a guy that will tell us $350 would be a wholesale cost. Now, is that what it costs them? I don't know. You got to buy the machine, right? It's like anything. You buy the machine, and then what's your ROI? How much are you going to charge until you pay for the machine? Once the machine's paid for, woo, right? I mean, now it's all gravy. Well, how can an MRI wholesale for $350 and some people charge $2,000? I say people, providers, hospitals, doctors' offices, people that are doing MRIs. They own the big machine, right? And they're charging $2,000. Shouldn't we know that it's $350 potentially somewhere? Shouldn't we shop for that? What if somebody said, you know what? I don't believe in gouging my clients anymore. How about I charge $500 and I make $150? You know, like, okay. So we need that transparency, right? Anyway, I'm a big believer in that, and that is coming, right? The prior Trump administration did have rules in place that was going to force providers to be able to show their pricing structures and post them online. So when we buy healthcare services, why is it that we just buy whatever they tell us to buy? I get it when it's emergency. Hey, we're not going, yeah, I'm on the emergency room table and I'm going, time out. Can I shop for a different anesthesiologist? Okay, probably not going to happen. But if I'm going in for elective surgery, why wouldn't I shop that? I'm just saying. Now, if you're tied into your provider, you love them, they're telling you, here's what you're going to do, and you go, okay, I'll do it. We'll expect to pay more, right? So anyway, just know your costs, shop your costs, right? And then the drug pricing. You guys, as you know, things are happening in D.C. to try to manage this. There's some efforts that began during the Trump administration that we hope some things will continue through the Biden administration to really deal with prescription pricing. So same issues with transparency, and why can you get it cheaper in Mexico and Canada than in the United States? Like something's messed up about that, right? And so we've got people that will go over the border. What are they have? They don't. The FDA is not over them, obviously, but you know what's the issue? It's the same manufacturer making it, shipping it to different. Okay, so transparency is big, and then quality outcomes from the providers. Like, you know, we're starting to see some of this too with social media, which can be a blessing and a curse, obviously. But we're finding out, like, what kind of score? Do you guys remember when LASIK came out? I love using this example because it wasn't covered by any insurance companies. I got it, and I can still see. I got it, goodness, 20 years ago, probably before I left the Twin Cities to move to Iowa. I got LASIK surgery, and I know I paid I think I paid $2,500 an eye. So $5,000 that I spent on LASIK 20 years ago. And we're hearing offers now in this space. It's not usually, you can maybe get a discount through a vision program, but I mean, it's not generally covered by insurance. And so these people are out competing in the open market for LASIK surgery, and they're going, hey, buy one eye, get the second one free. I mean, I joke about the BOGO on your eyeballs because I don't know that I would actually do that. But we should look and see what is your pricing, what is your competitor's pricing, and then what are the quality outcomes? I mean, if somebody's losing eyesight and you only charge me $150 an eye, I think I'll pay more. Thank you. Right. So we need the quality outcomes to make good buying decisions like we do for anything. We look at reviews before you go buy a TV. You shop your TVs for Pete's sake and look at consumer reports or whatever to see what kind of a TV it is. We got to get to that level of shopping for our healthcare, I believe. And then last but not least, we still need to. I'm a big fan of health savings accounts. And if you're not familiar with that or you're not using those, talk to me. I'll talk to you offline, and I'll probably do a little preaching on this one because I love health savings accounts, pairing those with a high deductible health plan, a qualified high deductible health plan. But we need to create this culture of wellness. How do we do that? We do that with some of the things I just talked about with engagement and transparency. But we also, in this culture of wellness, you guys, we have to take care of ourselves, right? Did you realize, and I love this statistic, and it really hasn't changed in the last 10 years since we've been talking about this, 80% of all healthcare costs are behavior related. 80% of all healthcare costs are behavior related. So when I hear that, that means can we only really impact, how much can we impact? Well, can we impact, right, 80% of our costs? Because guess what? The other number is generally that's generated by 20% of the population. There's the other 80-20 rule on the other side of that, right? Which is crazy. So if we can target the folks that are using the most of our healthcare dollars. So the culture of wellness, we've got to get it. Stay healthy, stop with all these they call them comorbidity, where I've got obesity, which leads to diabetes, which leads to heart disease. And I have that, and I'm a sinking ship, right? I'm going to cost our health system lots and lots and lots of dollars, obesity, et cetera. You guys know it. And some of the things we can't do anything about, of course. But we need to be better consumers, get engaged. I mean, there you go. That's just kind of my thoughts. And here we are with a few minutes left. And I think what we'll do is just open it up here. Feel free. Maybe I wanted to leave that share on there for just a second, but I'm going to go ahead and open the chat up and just see. Hey, Lori Day. Yep. Saying, hey, glad to be with each of you today. And Marianne Kennedy. Hey. So I don't have really anything else in the chat box right now, but maybe do you want to just maybe let's stop sharing. How about I stop sharing, you guys? And then maybe just, since everybody's muted, and Ashley, I don't know if you want to control it, just like raise your hand and we'll acknowledge you, right? And just unmute you, yeah? And I just noticed Cindy Weedman had been waiting and I just clicked admit. So, sorry, Cindy.
Marianne, I see a question from Marianne.
Everybody, I don't have a question, but I just love Lynn's enthusiasm for her business. And I'm trying to listen to everything and write notes. And I guess I just know that if I have questions later after I read my notes, I can contact you, because that was a brain full of information. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Tamara, yeah. Unmute, Tamara. You're muted, Tamara.
Sorry about that. You'd think after all these months, yeah, thanks, Lynn. That was excellent and good to see you. Do you think that healthcare will ever get to a point where people that really take good care of themselves will be recognized and get discounts for that? I mean, I think that's the part that frustrates my husband and I, is, we try to do all the right things. We don't smoke, we try to eat healthy, we exercise, we try to be in good health, but yet it seems like we're penalized with high deductibles because of all the bad health out there. And so I don't know, do you think we'll ever get to a point where that will become more of a norm?
The options that we have today are Farm Bureau that you can underwrite for. They do reward you. The rates tend to be similar to small group rates. And with the subsidies going on right now, it's ridiculous. I mean that in a good way. I mean, ridiculous in the individual market that makes those premiums stand out. You guys might want to look into, making sure you're not paying at least any more than 8.5% of your income and get some help that way, because I think the ACA is what's being really promoted now, really. I mean, from one administration to the next, we're seeing the changes. So the Trump administration was not a big fan of ACA, and the Biden administration is. So we're going to see continued support and improvement on the ACA, from what I can tell. So the other option, Tamara, really is if you can do a group of 2 for you and your spouse, a level funded plan might be it. We've got carriers that are writing level funded plans in a small group way. So that could be an option.
Lynn, I've had somebody take one of those short-term limited duration plans and then get Dr. Vanderveer as a DPC. So we use direct primary care, which we have now in Des Moines. And basically you pay a monthly membership, and he's going to be the one that manages your everyday care. And then you would want to layer that. You have to have it for those emergencies or specialist visits that you have. So it could be like a high deductible health plan, but we know that even those are not super affordable either. But I have had somebody just recently that went on a short-term policy and just got a membership with Dr. Vanderveer. So people are getting creative, that's for sure. So yeah, just a thought.
Hey, I'd just like to
Anybody
say
else?
that there is no question too stupid to ask Lynn about this. because seriously, at my house, my husband is contemplating retirement and my insurance is through his company. And, I wanted to know, well, what options do I have once he leaves there and he goes on Medicare? And, I got a lot of options, and Lynn let me know what questions to ask of his employer and of my employer and all sorts of stuff. So there's so many details. This is like going to be the only time I ever do this, and I don't want to learn all this, but Lynn knows it. So I'm telling you, there's no stupid question. So thank you, Lynn, for that.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks, Bobby. And it's just it's all we do, right, at KHI. So that's why, this is our world and this is what we play in. And I will tell you guys right now too, and I didn't mention the COBRA stuff with the American Rescue Plan, but there's another whole presentation on what's going on with COBRA. As you guys know, COBRA is the, see ya, Amy. COBRA is the guaranteed rights that you get. And Bobby, this plays into it, I got to tell you, because the government is going to be funding those COBRA premiums from April 1st to September 1st, I think, if I got my dates right. For 6 months, they're going to be paying those the COBRA premiums for folks that were involuntarily let go. So it can't be that somebody quit. Yeah, so it wouldn't work in your situation now that I think about it, because Bob would have to be let go. Versus retiring. And you're muted, so I hope you're not talking to me, Bobby. Okay. Okay.
Sorry.
And Catherine.
Trying not to answer
See you,
a phone
Catherine.
call.
Oh, okay, sorry. I didn't know if you were talking to me. But yeah, and so Marcy, raise your hand if you sell health insurance on this call, just to be helpful. Marcy does, Christy does, Anne. I think, and I thought Karen Taylor, I know does, she had signed up for the call and I didn't see her on the participant list, but you guys know Karen. So I just tell you, besides myself, and just make sure you use somebody. I always like to tell people it doesn't cost you anything to use an agent. It doesn't cost you anything, right? So you should use somebody. We get paid by the insurance company if you buy through us, right? That's how we get paid. So we do a lot of free education. It's just, that's what comes with the territory, and it's our passion. And I know that I can speak that of Marcy for sure, Ann and Christy. So yeah, it's just what we do and we love it.
So listening to Lynn today is why we work with KHI, why our agency rolls underneath them, because they do provide so much support for us. Actually just had somebody reach out to me that needs insurance in Missouri, and I'm not licensed, so I can go to KHI and they have the ability to help support some of those other things too. So Lynn's passion is why I'm doing what I'm doing today. So I'm excited to sit and listen to her again today.
Thanks, Mars.
Thank you all. Were there any other questions? If not, I'll give you 5 minutes back to your day. Okay, well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Thank you, Lynn. That was really helpful. I know if you ever have any questions, Lynn's contact information is on the NABO site as a member, and I'm sure she would be more than willing to answer any questions that you have. So thanks again for coming, and hope to see you again soon.
Good to see
Bye,
everyone.
everybody.
Bye.